Okay, before we begin, we need to understand the difference between glaze and underglaze. So the test tiles that are rounded like this, and you can see that they're shiny, it has a texture on it. This is an example of glaze. And this is basically like liquid glass. And glaze goes after we fire it, and it is bisque fired is what we call this when the clay is white. Glaze is the part that's going to make it shiny. Now, for this technique, which we're going to be using, which is called Sgraffito, which is a really fun word, we are going to be using underglaze. Now, underglaze looks like glaze, but it is what you put under your glaze to make it shiny, to get some special effects on it. So, for instance, take a look at this test tile. So the test tiles that look like this are examples of the underglaze technique. It's kind of a funny shape. So you'll notice here that this part of the test tile looks pretty dull. It is not shiny, whereas this part is shiny. So this portion here is showing you what the underglaze color looks like. This portion here shows you what the color turns into after you put one coat of clear glaze on it. You can see that the color changes. Here's an example of how that looks on a black. So here, the underglaze with no glaze. Here we have the glaze. Now, the color of these are written on the back so that you can identify them in the bottle. So for instance, this one is the medium blue color. You can see that the underglaze looks pretty close to this, but when you put the shiny coat of glaze on it, makes it look a little bit brilliant and brighter. So what you're going to be doing first for this Sgraffito technique, and as a reminder, what you wrote down in your sketchbook, Sgraffito is applying color. In this case, it was applying underglaze, which we then carve and take away the color. So here is an example of a piece that is using Sgraffito as a design element. So you can see that all of this color that's blending in together, that's done by using underglaze. Then I've carved away, and that's what all those white lines are, okay? So that is just the clay, and I'm gonna show you how to do that. So to begin, you are going to start with 3 of your 6 test tiles. Then you're gonna choose a color, and for the first one, you just need to paint it solid. Now, it is very important that you do 3 layers of this, but you have to let it dry in between. So I'm going to be working on all of these at one time. Notice, this one is very streaky as we get that first layer in, okay? And it will get better. So now I'm going to go on to the second one. For the second requirement for this is you need to mix colors. So look at the color wheel, figure out what colors mix well together. I am going to be using a purple and a blue. So I'm going to have a paintbrush for each color, or we don't want to mix the paintbrushes because you guys will be painting directly from these containers. So here I am going to do a layer of the blue. Notice it's still streaky. And then I'm going to do a layer of the purple using a different brush, but you guys can just rinse out your brush and dry it out. We don't want it to be super liquidy. All right, so that purple is a little bit hard to see because it looks like it's kind of the color of the gray clay right now, but you'll see what happens when we add a second coat. So for the third tile, that is one that you can do of your choice. So what I am going to do is I'm going to actually just paint a solid purple coat, and then I'm going to do some designs over top of it with the blue on the third coat. All right, so now I'm going to come back and work on this one. Once again, very streaky. So let's go ahead and add our second coat of the blue. And you can already see that that is much better in the coverage, but still a little streaky. I'll take care of that in the third coat, but looks better. Okay, next one, 3 coats. If you're having a hard time blending your mixed color one together, take a clean, dry brush and you can just kind of carefully kind of blend those two together. Now onto my second coat here. And I'm going to continue that, okay? Now, I don't have time to wait for these to dry. So what you guys will do is you'll add the color to these in one class period. Then the next class period, you're actually gonna come back and you're going to do the actual Sgraffito technique. So, I have 3 test tiles that are already dry so that I can show you this a little bit. So this is my third design, kind of like this one. So what you can do, and I said I wanted to add a design to it. Painting a design could be part of your choice tile. So maybe I want to do that with polka dots to add just a little bit more of a design element to it. So when we're actually doing Sgraffito, there's a couple of different tools that you can use. These loop tools in your clay box are excellent. There's also kind of a Sgraffito tool that's double-ended that looks like this. Things like pencils or the back of a paintbrush work really well too. So what you're simply going to do with this is choose a design. When you choose a design, you are going to just draw right into it. So I'm going to use this blue one first. And as I'm drawing into it, we don't want it to be super, super sharp. When I say super, super sharp, that means like this, where it's so deep that you get little crusties on it, okay? Notice the difference between that. A wider line is going to work better than a deeper line. So in this, you are going to just carve that color away. You can draw anything into this for your design. So when we fire it, that gray clay that we see is going to turn into a white contrasting color like this. So that is how you do the Sgraffito technique. Let me show you how that might look different if you are using a loop tool. So you'll want to use the corner of the loop tool and you can carve away. So you see, this one creates a little bit of a wider line, which that might be the design element that you are going for. Once again, like the back of a paintbrush or a pencil can create some interesting texture as well. These straight tools work really well too. To add and carve away. So I want you to pick a design. They can be 3 different designs that you are going to practice that technique on these first 2. Okay? This one we will save for another part.